Okay, hello everyone. I'm gonna share my screen here. Perfect, you guys should all see it. We're excited. We are going to get started at exactly the top of the hour. So excited to be started here in just a second, and we'll kick things off. There we go. Okay, everyone, welcome. Hello, this is webinar 1 of our 9-part series focused on the technology shaping the future of staffing. I'm Erin McKenzie of Newbury Partners. I'm VP of Client Services over here, and I will be your host through all 9 sessions. These conversations, just so you guys kind of have a heads up, are designed to be short, actionable. We're really focused on solving real challenges that each of you are facing every day. This doesn't matter whether you're a recruiter, whether you're in the operations side, your back office, your executive. I promise you there's going to be something for each of you all the way throughout. So before I really truly dive in here, I wanted to just kind of recognize some of our incredible sponsors who are really truly making this happen. We've got several of them joined with us right now, which I'll kind of chat through in just a second. But just so you guys all are aware, is each week we're going to be joined by a different technology partner in the industry. These are going to be people that are from automation, scalability and growth, compliance, sourcing, engagement, analytics, and more. So you guys are going to have an entire lineup over the next 9 weeks. Promise to keep this to about 30 minutes so you guys have time back in your day. We'll have a few sessions that may be an hour as we have more technology partners on that. But I am excited because for today, our featured sponsors are 2 true friends of mine, really truly through this technology space over the last several years. I'm first going to introduce longtime entrepreneur Rod, founder and CEO of Glide Talent. Glide is an AI-powered recruiting platform that automates top of the funnel hiring, handling job advertising, personalized outreach, candidate screening, and they really truly deliver faster qualified talent. And then secondly, I'm going to, and Rod, hopefully I didn't mess anything or miss anything there. And
There's more to come,
secondly,
but yeah, thanks.
perfect. And secondly, I am going to introduce Alessandra. Alessandra is from my home country of Canada, so super excited to have her here. She's the director of product growth and experience. And really, if you aren't familiar with GorillaWorks, GorillaWorks is an all-in-one staffing back office automation platform. They are also powered by AI, designed for onboarding, timesheet and expense management, pay and bill processing. They do branded client contractor portals. They also include compliance monitoring, which is a big thing for us right now, as well as their Gorilla Resume for AI resume formatting. But today, I am excited to truly kind of focus on speed to submit, power to scale, and clarity to lead. So we only have about 30 minutes and we truly value your time, as I was saying. So I'm going to try and get into this, but if you do have questions, please send them into the chat. We're going to be monitoring them. We may not get to all of the questions, but we will make sure that we follow up to the entire group with all of the answers after. So please don't hesitate to send that over and we'll make sure you guys all get a copy of the actual recording. Okay, let's jump in here and I'm going to try and toggle my screen as we go throughout. But here's where I really kind of want to get started. So I'm going to kind of start with a phrase that truly gets kind of everyone's attention. Doesn't matter kind of where you are in operations executive, but speed to submit. What I did was I kind of referenced a quote here that really resonated with me, and I feel that it's super true. It's honestly no longer the big beating the small. It's truly the fast beating the slow. Rod, what do you see as truly the biggest blockers to getting quality candidates submitted quickly? Because I think this really kind of hits home for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't want to talk about how our AI will speeds the process up, makes it more human all the way through, and helps people accelerate that, which it does naturally. But I also want to think it's most important that people think about actually where the time is focused. So when you've got a limited amount of time, and the humans have a limited amount of time in the workday, and we've a limited amount of time to focus on a candidate or focus on an opportunity or otherwise, it's really important that you're focusing on the right ones, focusing on the people who have engaged. So you're not trying to call people who are not engaged. Focus on people who have actually qualified for the roles. So you're getting that focus right, because even if you're not that much faster than the next recruiter, if you're only working the actual qualified opportunities, the qualified candidates, you're going to be much faster in terms of submitting. So it's when you look at your process and your workflows, and unfortunately, a lot of the ATSs are not designed very well about helping you accelerate, do this, or helping you kind of organize your funnel, your top of funnel. When you look at that, you say there's actually a lot of wasted effort going into each different candidate, or into ones that are not going to be suitable, or into ones that are not going to connect with or ghost you. That's a real issue. And until you start focusing on changing, hey, let's change our process a little bit. Let's shift into using maybe an AI tool to get through that process faster and use less effort to actually talk to the right people. I think that's the first key.
That sounds perfect. I mean, because I think that process is huge. And I think that also reviewing that process at the top is going to be key for so many folks across the board. I'm going to switch over to Alessandra here as well. So Alessandra, if we think about it from like the operational side of the house. So like once a recruiter does have a strong candidate, as kind of Rod chatted about top of the funnel there, what do you think really tends to slow down the process truly behind the scenes for folks?
So what I've heard from lots of different recruiters that I've spoken to is one thing that really slows them down is formatting their resumes. So, and I'm guilty of this before I started at GorillaWorks. My resume is so bonkers looking, and now I'm like, this is so annoying for recruiters. So ultimately, that's why we decided to build Gorilla Resume to help recruiters change that time from like 30 minutes, 20 minutes on a resume to seconds. And then the way that they use it is they can pick whatever template that they want. So recruiters have also told me that, different clients want different templates, and they're, so each time they're submitting to a different client, they need to make sure that that template is correct for them. And then even after that, once they've submitted to the client and the client says it's a go, doing that whole process can take, anywhere from 2 weeks to even longer, depending on all of the things that you need to do for like background checks and all the documents that you collect. So those are some of the things that I see that really take the longest from the operational side, is getting that resume to the client in the format that they're looking for, and then getting all of the information that you need from the candidate once they've been selected.
I think one of my number one things back in my eRecruit days was, oh my God, this resume formatting, I can't get it right. So that's huge. And then the latter part was all the documentation, like how long it took to do. So definitely resonate with both of those.
And then
through personal
every
experience.
client, like every client too wants different things collected, different things signed from candidates. So it's so difficult to keep track of all that. Like this client wants this client prefers this background check provider, or they have these 4 extra forms for the candidate to sign. It just becomes like just so many things to keep track of to get your candidate deployed.
Totally understand. And really there's kind of like friction on both sides, the recruiter side, which Rod kind of brought in here, the operational side that we see. Rod, going to go to you again really quickly. How do you personally, like with Glide, help firms create a faster yet still quality driven top of the funnel experience? Because I think that's something that I think a lot of people will want to hear.
And super important. And the quality driven part of that is really important to us. I've seen over and over again people come in with automation systems that will do more of the same thing. So like make more phone calls, or to make up more, and it's going to canned responses typically. Like it's the same questions, the same things. It doesn't take into account, like any good recruiter out there knows that they'll read their notes, read the resume first, and then frame the questions they're going to ask, not just ask a set series of questions. So Glide takes a series of autonomous agents connecting all the way up to the job posting, the job advertising, so you can manage it and turn it on and off when you have enough qualified candidates automatically. We then make a very personalized outreach immediately on application, and then we bring that, telling the candidate what is interested, and then we use conversational AI that's custom tailored to that specific individual around the specific job they're looking for, so that we have a conversation with them, not a strict interview. We have a conversation that extracts that information we need to know, so that the recruiter can make a very informed decision, and we can make a recommendation. And that way, then the candidate gets feedback straight away, so they get an exceptional experience, which keeps them coming back. First of all, you then get all of the information that you actually need, not generic questions that you've set up, or you've had to kind of figure out specifically for each job or whatever else. Glide does all of that autonomously. and is then tailored and specifically to the client that you're actually recruiting for as well. So even the summary that's generated afterwards is tailored to that client specificity and their needs for that in that role. So it's hyper tailored all the way through. It's automated through each stages, and it's using exactly the best practices that a really great recruiter would do in their job, not just automating higher volume of activity.
That's huge, because I think that's really like that helps, because if we're getting to the actual candidates that are applying up front, we're having those questions, we're being able to get all that information back to the recruiter in a nice organized format, and they don't have to do all of that extra work and make sure they already have the quality candidates at their fingertips. That's huge, because I know back in my day I had plumbers, not to say that plumbers can't be accountants, but there was quite a few plumbers that I remember in my recruiting days were applying to CPA roles, and I was like, you just don't have the qualifications. So if I could have weeded those out a little bit earlier, would have been very, very nice. And then
and I'm just going to add to that, like, weeding the old days of weeding them out also took recruiter time. You got to look at a resume or an email or whatever else to weed them out. So, and you don't even know then if they're going to respond when you pick up the phone to them, if that's the right time of day for them or anything else. Agreed. So all of those blockers, which actually soak up an enormous amount of recruiter effort that turns to nothing, actually are taken away by the type of AI that we use.
That's a massive time savings and really definitely helps get to that quality. I mean, I love it. And then Alessandra, for you, I mean, is there a tipping point where manual like op tasks are actually kind of impacting recruiter performance or candidate experience at all?
Yeah, for sure. I think I would say there's so much of that falls into the onboarding portion when you've identified your candidate, they've been selected by the client, and now you're creating all of the like timesheet rules and all of this stuff for your candidate, getting all of their information. So, all of that information typically lives in your ATS. So then you're copying all of that over to your back office tools or wherever you need to put it for all of your onboarding documents. And like any mistakes that you do in that process, that really prolongs everything as well. But even just, setting the time to do all of those manual tasks, like it takes the recruiter away from engaging with their candidates and engaging with other candidates and clients. So I think that's one of the things that we see is super manual that really takes recruiters away from like the core work that they're doing. And then any mistakes there have really big impacts later down the line, which is also like gets recruiters involved in solving problems, like when their consultants are on a job and call them with questions about their timesheets aren't aligning, or like the information that they have in their portal is not correct, stuff like that. So I think that's one of the big things that we see.
Yeah, if you're not paying a candidate accurately because their timesheet are not right, you have way bigger problems.
Exactly.
As we know, we all care about money when it comes to our paychecks. So no, that makes such a world of difference. No, this is super helpful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of transition a little bit. I'm going to, and I think that's really helpful to kind of set the stage really with kind of where we're at. But now I want to kind of focus on like the power to scale, because I think this is something that is really going to be big for all of us, regardless, like, again, once again, of the roles of how do we scale internally. And I wanted to share this because last month in June, SIA published the #1 items that are causing the biggest pain points within staffing firms. The top 3 was really acknowledging what are the right AI tools, as you guys can see, implementing effective reporting, and then number 3, integrating new tools into their existing systems. I know probably both of these talk to you guys pretty loud. So let me kind of ask the broader question, and then I'll get it a little bit more narrow, but like, how do firms really prepare for growth without creating this massive amount of chaos within their company, like operationally, recruiters, sales, across the board? So Rod, I'm going to start with you again. What advice would you give to firms that are trying to grow, trying to scale, but aren't really sure like their funnel is truly ready for volume?
Yeah, a great one actually. The first thing I'll probably say with that is, from our experience, most funnels have too much in them already, and it's the fallacy that we perpetuate a lot of the time is, oh, we put more stuff in at the top and that's how we scale, and it's actually not the case. You really need to do is you need to get better conversions throughout your funnel in order to scale properly. You can't do it by just throwing more mud at the wall. It doesn't scale at all. So getting that data down is really important. So understanding exactly what your funnel currently looks like. Are you utilizing the applicants? Are they coming in? Are they engaging? And what is the gap between engagement? So there's technology tools out there like Glide and others will actually give you that data first, but also shrink those gaps and improve those ratios. But before you put any technology in to solve a scaling problem, you have to remember that your KPIs that you're using today are probably working against the adoption of any new technology or the change of any new behavior or implementing a system that's going to focus or a different focus that's on conversion rates instead of just volume. So I always like to say when you're going through, I mean, I like to when you're going through a technology change to address one of these things, like a scaling volume for your funnel, you need to obviously get the data in. You need to have the technology that's going to give you the right data, or at least find it in some way. And then the second thing that you need to do is like recognize that actually having a recruiter count how many phone calls they made to applicants, including voicemails left, doesn't really help you with a scaling problem. So you need to kind of say, okay, let's cut these KPIs we had out. Let's focus on the two that are most important. What's our candidate experience like? So you're like a candidate NPS, and what's our client experience like? If you take those two metrics when you're going through technology change and ignore everything else, those two metrics are going to tell you whether you're being successful or not. Because if your candidates like it and your clients like it, you're going to end up winning out overall, and the rest of the numbers will follow.
Yeah, testimonials, referrals, all of that stuff. You're going to kind of build a culture that's really kind of set around that. I totally agree with you. I think it's such a huge, huge thing. And I do love your statement about throwing mud on the wall, because really what I think about on that is like throwing technology on the wall, and you're just throwing technology everywhere without really honing in on what's right. And making the most sense. So Alessandra, let me kind of go for you, kind of same idea from your view, and like listening to kind of really what Rod said there, like what systems or workflows do you see that like kind of break down when firms are really truly trying to scale and grow too fast and not ready for it yet?
I would say like a disjointed middle and back office is something, because you can do, you can hire as many recruiters, you can hire, you can get lots of great candidates, but if your back office and your middle office aren't talking to your front office and they're disconnected, then that's where things really start to break down, because then you have, your recruiters then are working to solve problems that are related to that instead of finding new candidates, finding new jobs, and things like that. So it's when the back office systems aren't connected to the front and everything is disjointed, which when we talk to some companies that are using like spreadsheets for their back offices and stuff, because they're like, it's, if they have 50 consultants on assignment at any given time, that's probably okay. But then once they set their sights on scaling, like that's just not manageable. And so you want to put in systems that can grow with you from that, 50 to 100, and that you don't have to change them as you grow. And also that you don't have to hire new people to continue to manage that. So you want systems in place that can grow with you without you needing to grow additional people to manage that. Because as companies are scaling, they want to grow their sales team, their recruiting team, because that's what's really bringing in all of that new business. But then when you start needing to grow that back office team, sort of the balance sheets and stuff don't look as appealing as they maybe would otherwise.
Totally agree. Because when you have those silos, both like
Yeah.
system silos as well as department silos. So system silos, you have just the back office finance team working in your financial systems. You have operations that's working on your ATS, or the recruiter sales working in the ATS. When the two don't talk to each other, both people as well as systems, it definitely can create a lot of chaos, as we were chatting about in the beginning. Okay, so question for both of you guys. I'll start with Alessandra first, but how should a staffing firm evaluate whether their systems are truly ready to support scale? Like, what are some questions, or just one question that you think leaders should be asking themselves as they're kind of going through this process and looking at taking it to the next level?
I think it's important, like when you're looking at that, to evaluate, the team that you have in place, and then, set the technology aside for a second and look who's managing your operations from the front office pieces to the middle and back office pieces, and how, are those people stretched? Are those people, can they take on more work? And also, like, is there knowledge across the teams that each people can sort of jump into different parts of that role to help out if things got really busy? Because we had one client who they came to us and they were like, we have one guy that manages our entire payroll and he can't even go on vacation because then people won't get paid because nobody else knows how to do this. No one else knows all the rules and all of that stuff. And we were like, that even
Or he wins the
beyond
lottery and walks away
exactly
tomorrow.
that's
Like,
what I said. I was like,
who's
what
gonna walk
exactly?
away?
We were like,
Yeah.
yeah. So looking at that is also really important when you're thinking about scaling. Like, do you have the people in place that can take on more work? And if no, then you need to look at other things, right? So you need to look at how's your technology supporting your operations and your business, and do you have pieces in place that can continue to grow without growing that headcount? So I
Totally
think
makes
that's
sense.
like, yeah, that was one of the revolution. Like, it was such a revelation when they told us this. I was like, this is why people have these technology systems with all of these built-in rules and these, so that anybody can jump in and sort of take over if necessary. And if somebody has extra bandwidth, they can sort of pivot over. But when everything is sort of on a spreadsheet and in somebody's brain, that's not going to
It's
help scale
challenging.
or grow your business. Yeah.
Rod, do you have one question that leaders should be asking themselves as well when they're kind of thinking about scalability? And then I'm going to transition us to our last section here for the last 9 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say great one, Alessandra. Actually, it is the people part is a really important one, and actually the not even necessarily this capacity, but are they the right people? Because the scaling element is you've got to have people there that have high levels of critical thinking. They're able to look at a problem or look at a scenario and ask, is there a problem with it? And then investigate it and then come to a decision, because without relying just on, oh, this is how we used to do it, or this is how it's been done before. So they've got to have that openness. The second thing that I think is from our experience is actually astoundingly absent in the current systems is proper analytics on what their funnel looks like and the conversion and so on, what the habits of the recruiters are. So I can, majority of people we talk to won't have any idea how many applicants they get per month. They won't have any idea how many of those they convert to having an actual real conversation with. How many first they try to reach out with, how many they try to contact, how many they have a real conversation with, how many of those convert, how much time a recruiter spends making different phone calls or failing to connect. There's an absolute absence of that. And then associating that with cost per channel or otherwise, there's even that. So there's an analytics gap that's enormous in actually in solving these things. I actually talked with another friend of ours, Dan Morey, before, and he was showing me an example of one of our clients. They did find the numbers with a bit of digging, but they were getting, I think, 12,000 applications in a month, of which the recruiters were actually talking to, I think, 600. The remaining 10,000 at least got no response or anything at all.
Wow.
So they were paid advertising applicants. So they
This is
paid for those
huge.
10,000 and didn't get them anywhere. So this is
Wow.
when you don't have that granularity and conversion rates,
Yeah.
you miss a lot of things.
I think
So
this
that's
helps
the
us
first thing.
transition to this last section because it's really about that clarity, not just the clarity of what's in your pipeline, what's your operational, but it also kind of brings us to that leadership side, that clarity to lead. Where can we go from here? And I think clarity is one of the biggest gaps that we're also seeing from the scalability. And it's not that leaders don't know how to lead or they don't have the clarity, but they don't always have that line of sight, like to your point. So they don't really know what's stuck and what's not working. It's really kind of diving in there. I'm going to, based off of the time, Alessandra, I'm going to kind of start with you and then I'm going to go over to Rod here for the next one. But Alessandra, how does operational clarity or lack thereof do you think show up in staffing firms for you?
Yeah, so I think it's such a good point, and that's one of the things that we talk a lot with clients or just people in staffing that we're talking about is how do you if you want to see what's going on in your business, where do you go? Like, where do you go to look to see how many deals you have in the pipeline, and of those deals, how many are profitable, because that's one of the things that we've been talking to a lot of companies about. And they're saying, we have all of these deals, but some are more profitable than others. And some with, they're actually losing money on at the end of the day. And so all of that reporting is really difficult to sort of synthesize. So what we've done at Gorilla Works is we really worked really hard on our reporting, and how with everything connected, there's a lot of real time reporting capability. So when you're entering in a placement in the system, it will tell you, there's rules and stuff associated, and it'll tell you how profitable this one placement is. Then you can drill down to that one candidate if you're redeploying them often. How profitable is that candidate versus this client versus that recruiter, the salesperson? Because we will put everything in the business in the back office tool. So you have like it's sort of a source of truth for all of the financial information.
Totally makes sense.
So that makes it shouts it in your face, right? So you don't have to go digging to find the information. You go into the tool and you can see how things are trending with specific clients and specific industries, and maybe you can drill down by, location and things like that.
Totally
So
makes sense.
And that's one thing that, when we're talking to clients about, the benefits that they're seeing from the tool and how things are helping, that's something that is, especially from the leadership level, that's what they really love, is because they can see what's happening in the business. And so they can see where things may not be working as well and where things are working really well.
I think that's huge. So I know that both of you, when we're talking about clarity and we're looking at kind of across the board, I know both of you listened to the Microsoft Build keynote. This took place back in May. For those of you that didn't listen to it, we can totally send it over. It's a great keynote to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
But really, we had more clarity around Microsoft direction. And one kind of big takeaway was the idea of a world centered around Copilot and Teams. Especially, I think they reference that like 72% of the world runs on Windows, and recruiters spend upwards of 75% of their time inside Outlook and Teams. So when we think about this from a staffing perspective, it kind of really raises a big kind of question, like, what does it look like when AI is no longer a tool that you toggle into, but really it's going to be a teammate that sits inside the platform your recruiters are already using every day? I know we only have 3 minutes, so Rod, I'm going to go with you and then let you kind of help me answer this here.
Yeah, I mean, this was fantastic work by Microsoft. It's actually we've been working in Glide on doing this for a little over about a year now, and merging all of the things into Teams and into that environment. So before this was announced, it was our direction too. I was very pleased to see it as we kind of merge all of that stuff. But what Microsoft effectively have said and declared is while they still have all of the other apps and programs, we're familiar with the Words, the Outlooks, the PowerPoints, everything else. What they're really saying is that your UI for AI is going to be through Copilot, or if it's in collaborative environment, it's Copilot within Teams. So you've got Copilot Teams are the UI for doing everything, and that means creating everything. So if you want to start by creating an email, you'll start in Copilot. Hey, drop me an email to whatever about the last email we sent, or summarize the emails I've got in today, which ones are important to answer. Tell me that stuff. So that becomes your first entry point. We're no longer thinking about a browser and forms and buttons and clicks, fields that you've got like a typical CRM. That no longer is the way we interface with technology. It's chatting, it's conversational, it's voice, and that much more natural speaking. So that's the first huge takeaway, is that you start there. And when you start there, then that Copilot already gives you access to all of your data that you have in your Outlook, your PowerPoint, your SharePoint documents, your operating procedures, things that you've published before, your spreadsheets that you're sharing, all of this information, including the ones that you've got from your clients. So it all has that access to it. And with Glide, you actually it gives you access to then the data that's in your ATS and so on. But it also lets you analyze that data, create documents, create PowerPoints from here's applicants for this role. Here's the statistics and data about our hiring project for your role, Mr. Client, and bring it and uses the AI to generate all that from the data that's in your system. So really getting access to visibility of your data, doing all that work starts in that environment, not in a boxes, buttons, and
I think
and
that's huge. I
clicks.
think it's super helpful. Okay, I know we have 1 minute and I super appreciate kind of all this insightful conversation. I know there's going to be questions that arise, but for our attendees, before they kind of walk away, because I know they're probably thinking about their own internal processes, systems, probably going to be looking up the Microsoft keynote as well. But Rod, let me go to you first. What's one word to describe the future of staffing operations?
Oh, I would say unified.
I like that. Okay, Alessandra, what about yourself?
I would say connected.
Ooh, I like that as well. Good. Unified, connected. That's kind of for everyone out there. You guys, thank you so much. And thanks to everyone who joined us. We will be following up on any questions. I'll make sure to send over the actual recordings. Please feel free to register for our next session, which is going to be with Eric Frank of PetraCoach and Chris Scowden of Newbury Partners. And I have to once again just kind of throw in thank you to all of our technology partners that are going to be joining us. You guys, we can't wait to kind of bring you so much more information through the entire series. So please, please, please register. I'll hold this up one more time if you need to scan it. We can't wait to see you in all of the sessions. And I appreciate you guys for spending the last 30 minutes with us. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks
Thank
all. Thank you
you.
so much. Thank you, Aaron, and wonderful. Well done. Great session.